Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part two of this two-part podcast. As we said last week, my guests spoke about their experiences and they entered the field and how they found their experience and they built their experience. In today's episode, we're gonna dive in deeper about how is it like to explore opportunities in NHS or private. Is it worth doing biomedical science? He'll be sharing advice or tips to biomedical science graduates, or if you want to become a biomedical scientist, is there future in this career? So let's dive in. So, talking about business, me and you, we've worked in NHS and the private, and we have different views about it, and everybody does. In terms of business, I'm sure you've seen they're equally the same. I was surprised. Do you think, because most students or anybody who wants to come and work in the UK, they want the NHS because it's got its advantages and privileges, etc. But in terms of opportunities, do you think it's worth exploring both the NHS and the private? For example, for me, I couldn't get into the NHS, so the first opportunity that was given to me was to work in the private.
hmm
So what's your experience in that, or your conclusion or thoughts?
Um, Even I would like to go back to the previous question and just
Sure.
add, it's not just MLAs that booking samples, because I saw this thing on TikTok that said only band threes do it. BMS is also
Oh,
booking samples as well. Okay, because there's times where you have to work by yourself. Um,
correct.
but yeah, I think obviously having worked in both private and NHS,
Mm,
me always gonna say that I prefer NHS. I think
mm-hmm.
private um was a culture shock for me. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's where I met you.
Yeah.
And the sheer volume
Mm,
was was a lot was a lot for me. And given my background was so it was a how would you say bacteriology lab, and
yeah.
my background was serology.
Yeah.
So it became quite a challenge to learn
Mm,
and learn quickly the stuff that I needed to do in order
yeah.
to be effective in my role. So
Yeah.
um I know within myself, like it got to a point where I just wasn't getting it. I had learned stuff,
Yeah.
learned a few things, but
Yeah.
I, I felt within myself I had to realize that I couldn't keep up with
Yeah.
the speed.
Mm.
Uh,
And the pressure as well, because it's all
yeah,
about turnaround time. Like, yeah.
again, it like I said, it was just a shock to the system
Yeah.
because you had to answer phones, and
Yeah.
these people calling from uh,
Anyway.
private want
Yeah.
their results now, and you've only
Yeah.
just got the sample.
Correct.
It it was very very demanding. I mean,
Correct. Yeah.
I'd love to go back there now. Obviously, with
Mm.
what I do, I feel I'm better suited to working in that kind of environment.
Mm.
But at the time, as a new band five,
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah.
yeah, it was very very difficult, and
Yeah,
without
we
any.
I think we started at the same time because I was newly qualified band 5, but I think my case was different because I was an MLA there. So I've already was familiar with the culture, but
Mm,
also I was, I was familiar with the volume and the personalities as well, because you don't know who you're dealing with. So because that's in every workplace. But I did understand where you come from, because for a new person, and you're not the only one, a lot of newly qualified band 5, they did struggle. And to be honest, the private experience is not for everybody. Some people can tolerate that, some people can't. So whatever works for you. So there's no right or wrong, I guess.
no, and I know a couple of people who eh, work in the private sector
Yeah.
now. And they don't find it as demanding as I have. They all have their
Yeah.
own experience.
Yeah.
We've seen labs where they don't get the same volume of samples.
Mm.
Their samples get sent on to another lab,
Yeah.
and but the knowledge is still required, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I
Correct.
think for me there was a huge knowledge gap which um I hadn't prepared for. So
Mm.
it took me a while, and me being me, wanting my report to go out perfectly, uh,
Yeah, yeah,
without error, it was kind of difficult for me. So I even think
yeah,
that was a big thing, sending out your first report and then being conscious that, oh, am I sending out the right thing?
yeah,
You
yeah.
get over that very quickly, But yeah, I'd always say NHS provided me with an environment, let me say a safe environment in which to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah, yeah.
But I feel like it was more patient,
Yes,
more accommodating.
yeah.
And there was more time for teaching. So, you know, I
I
wouldn't s-
agree.
I wouldn't say private on the whole is bad. If you
Yeah,
right now, if you can get a role in private,
you're
you
lucky.
take it. Take it.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Take what thank you for mentioning that because when I reflect back on the experience, there was some aspects I found them difficult, and I was like, my takeaway, like you, it depends. If there's an opportunity given to you, take it, and then do as much as you can and what and progress when you can, like you did yourself. And I left not far. Was it one of us left after the other? So
Yeah, I think
you left
you
first.
left after I left first. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's just we moved on, but again we take away the great experiences and the skills that we have gained and knowledge. So I'm glad that you said it, just take the opportunity, and I agree with you on that point.
I just
Which
wanted to add, like, I think even with working in the private sector, like, obviously, you work there as well. So it was it wasn't there's value that I got from it. I think there were a few individuals there that made it okay to work there at the time, and they were always encouraging,
yeah,
to the point where they're always like, come
yeah,
and look at this. And I think when you have that, it
yes.
it definitely helps.
Absolutely. We know who's we're referring to, and I share the same thing with you. They made life easy. So that's why I said when I applied and I joined, I already had an idea who I can approach. But for
Mm.
somebody new, it's you have to study the environment first, and then try and see who can help, because again it's very subjective who is willing to teach and who's not. So taken from this experience is find out, be mindful who are the people who you can approach.
Hmm.
And we're not criticizing some people, they don't have that skill of teaching, they don't have that patience of teaching. So it's not a bad thing, it's just a human nature. So anybody who's watching who feels like, oh, I don't want to be embarrassed, no, just be selective, choose who will talk, who will be happy to teach you, because that's life. There's people who are talkative, introverts, some people are extrovert, you can't change that. So thank you for mentioning that. And that, if you had an advice for somebody who's considering biomedical sciences or becoming a biomedical scientist, because now biomedical science can lead you to many opportunities, but also let's say biomedical scientists, do you have take on any of them, or feel free, if because you did the degree, I didn't do the degree, I did biochemistry degree and then masters in biomedical sciences. I wasn't aware of about the accreditation. So if you had an advice for a biomedical science graduate and someone who really specifically wants to become a biomedical scientist.
I think the first thing is that, like, even having the degree, you've completed. The first thing to know is that you've completed quite a difficult degree.
Mm,
Um, I don't think people acknowledge that quite well.
yeah,
And it offers you more opportunities than you think.
yeah.
So even as I left uni with a narrow mindset that I could
Mm,
only work in a lab. But then as I was applying, you can use your degree for a wide range of things.
mm,
So even in first my first MLA job,
yeah.
there was there was a girl who was doing her placement year,
Yeah.
and she went off to become a teacher.
Mm.
So there's transferable skills that you will have.
Yeah.
Or you can go and work in the army. You can go and work in sales. You can go and work for. Um, you can go and help develop the limb system. So the system that we use to uh, put in all our data that we collect in the lab. You can work for one of the you can work for in the pharmaceutical sector as well. So GSK, Merck, who have you. You can also work for the people that make the analyzers as well. So
Mm.
even throughout my journey, I've had colleagues that have gone off to work for companies who supply analyzers. So um, and the tech that we use to do our work. So
Yeah.
it's not it's not just lab work you can do. You can
Yeah.
do so many other things.
Hmm.
It's just about being confident in your skill set
Yeah.
and just applying and see what happens.
Absolutely. I didn't know myself. I had a narrow mindset as well. I just thought, oh, with the first degree, I thought, oh, I'll work in a lab, but then I didn't enjoy the degree. And I openly say that because I just chose biochemistry, sounded nice. And then
Mm.
with the biomedical science, again, I thought it's a lab, and I was lied to when I applied for the job that, oh, yeah, you'll become qualified. And I was just a medical laboratory assistant, an MLA in a specimen reception in a private lab. So it was a long story. So I was surprised that there's loads that you can do in terms of, and I wasn't aware on how difficult the degree is. So what about someone who specifically wants biomedical scientists? What advice would you give them
I
or
think
tips?
I think the thing is tips.
Yeah. Advice and tips, because now you've said biomedical science, you can do this so and so. So, in terms of biomedical scientist experience,
mm,
what tips would you have and
I, for
advise?
me, for me, I'd say firstly, don't disregard the MLA role,
Yeah,
even if you have um, degrees left, right, and center.
yeah,
Don't disregard it. You don't know where it can lead to.
mm,
Um, that be the first thing. I think another thing is not necessarily to do with the lab, but
yeah,
as I was thinking about it when we were talking about this podcast, I think it's important to learn to have soft skills.
yeah,
So what I mean by that is one thing I've noticed is that if you have likability, um,
mm,
it will serve you well. And just grit and determination and hard work, though those are essential for developing as a BMS. Yeah, I would say my advice would be to anyone graduating this year, um, is to seek out opportunities.
mm,
If you like, try your hardest. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people using their degrees to
mm,
apply for other courses. And if that's what you want to do, by
mm,
all means, pursue that. Um, but yeah, I would say just develop your soft skills, have the
mm,
confidence to apply for roles, and I think don't turn down any opportunity. So you might start off as an MLA in a
mhm.
lab, and for example, something may come along like a project.
Yeah,
So a lot of the time, I'm sure you've seen it yourself,
mm,
verification that needs to be done,
yeah,
validation practices, etc. um these little projects, audits, try and get involved in the lab.
mm,
um, Someone always said to me to take ownership of what you're
yeah,
doing in the lab, and I
yeah,
think it will serve you well if you're what all I know is working in a lab. So it
mm,
I think it can apply to working outside at the lab as well. So just
Yeah.
have a vision of what you want to do and see how
Mm.
you can achieve that. Because
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to
Absolutely.
you don't want to be there and not achieving your goals and so on and so forth. So yeah, just have the right mindset,
Yeah.
be confident, be positive, and you definitely go far.
I totally agree with you because now you've mentioned very, very important points in terms of putting yourself out there. In one of the videos, I said you have to pitch for yourself. So thank you for confirming that because it goes back to the old saying is by who you know as well, because you have to be, if I'm going to be in a place and I'll be thinking, oh, Francis, he will do this, he will do that. And both of you, we've seen people who will put themselves out there, who are proactive. They're the ones who progress, including yourself. You progress because you were there. So it's very important to, and like you said, the transferable skills that we have, you can apply them anyway. So that's fantastic that you have mentioned in terms of, because people think you get a degree, you land on a job. No, in
Yeah.
in our profession specifically, let's say biomedical science or healthcare, maybe I think but let's talk about in our profession. It's not about getting a degree and work experience alone. It's a combination of continuous learning and, non-stop, putting yourself out there. So your personality has to shine.
Mm.
It seems like it's more important than ever now, seeing how the job market is going. So thank you for giving us all these tips. In terms of your journey, looking back, because they always say things in life make sense when you look back. Do you have any regrets, or let me rephrase that and say, is there anything you would have done differently looking back in your journey to become a biomedical scientist?
Wow. What a question. I think the the point where I would have changed something if I had to would be the way I the way I approach things. So
Yeah.
because because I was getting knocked back from different jobs,
Mm.
left, right, and center,
Yeah.
it took a toll on on my confidence. So the next
Mm.
time I apply for a job, it'll be harder. So I had to get into the mindset of actually enjoying interviews.
Yeah.
It took a while, but with planning and preparation,
Yeah.
you will succeed. So I think, in essence, like going back, I'll be more. I'll try and be more confident in taking opportunities.
Mm.
Looking broadly at the opportunities that I may have available to me. So what I mean by that is like looking outside of London, for example,
Mm.
perhaps doing locum work. I
Yeah.
mean, at the time you needed experience, and I'm sure you still do now. I think even with COVID, a lot of
Yeah.
people have managed to get experience, meaning that they can apply for jobs in the molecular field. So
Yeah.
because obviously the testing required using molecular platforms.
Yeah.
So yeah, just making use of the opportunities that you have and going gung ho, as they say, with those opportunities. And you can always create opportunities for yourself. I
Yeah.
remember me and a colleague, because we completed our degree, no,
Yeah.
portfolio, portfolios. So we
Yeah.
wanted to help other people
Yeah.
complete. So we started a lunchtime thing where we met up and helped other people. So you can start your own thing to help other people get to where
Yeah.
you. Um, I know some people might think that
What's yeah.
people
Is it
don't want
worth
to
it?
share info. Yeah,
Yeah. They're very secretive. It's out there. They can
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like, and people don't want to share information, and
Yeah.
you know, and is it worthwhile? I'll say yes. The experience that you get
Yeah,
is undoubtedly is of value. You can then use it to propel yourself into other career avenues as well.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, don't limit yourself to just one thing. I mean, in the with the landscape as it is now, there,
Mm,
there's going to be change. There's going to be change, and you have to adapt to that change. So, you know, it, it's important that people look at what is available to them and what suits them. So, yeah, I just think observe where the opportunities lie. I think I was told that
absolutely.
in one interview. Just keep an eye out where things are
Mm,
going, you know, and then you'll find success. I think it's just about mindset, really.
absolutely. Having that growth mindset. And back to the next question. Do you think pursuing a career in biomedical science worth it? Because now we're talking about all the best sides, but we said we're going to cover everything. So now we're going to turn controversial now. The first controversial question is, do you think biomedical science is worth it?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot.
I'll say my view as well, to be
Oh no
fair,
no no no
so that we
no.
can be very transparent, because this is the
Yeah,
whole point. So people can know, is this for me? Is it worth it? Or shall I just move on into something else?
I think that's a hard question to answer purely because I can't speak for every individual. For
Mhm.
myself,
For yourself, yeah.
for myself, I think it is it is a worthwhile career.
Hmm.
However, um, at times it can be a bit. We won't lie to you, probably seemingly being the same thing day in day out.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, and like we talked about it before, I think
yeah,
with this, with being a BMS, sometimes it can be a bit limiting for some, but it depends again whether you want to push yourself and push the boundaries
yeah.
to to do other things. So
Mm,
what I would say is that there's pros and cons to every job, um,
correct.
and it's
Regardless to the industry. That's right.
yeah, and it may sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but
Yeah,
I've benefited quite well from doing this job.
yeah,
Um, and you know, it is like it's put food on my table or put a roof over my
absolutely.
head. And I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day, that's what we're working for. Um, at the moment, if I could say to anyone like do who's a BMS now, do the job and do it well. Patients rely on what we do.
yeah.
It can be an exciting role. I know people say it's this mundane, it's repetitive,
Mm,
and so on and so forth. So that's the negative about the job.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't lie about that. I mean,
yeah,
some days is tough.
yeah.
Uh, the volume that we get is
Some days you want to walk out and say, I'm done.
yeah. I'm sure some of the people who know me that might watch this will say, "Ah, we've seen him on certain shifts, like how he is," and they'll actually sometimes it can be stressful.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but what job isn't? So
correct.
I think it's a worthwhile career, and it is an important part of the patient pathway.
Yeah,
And like if in any that I ever wondered whether my job was decent enough. I
yeah.
remember the first time I attempted to do my portfolio, there was a presentation, and the
Mm,
first thing they said was biomedical scientists save lives. And we all know that we provide the basis of diagnosis for doctors. So we do actually do that, and it's important to recognize that and state that fact, because I think
mm,
that lost in the discussions that we have, because mainly we fix ourselves on whether this course is accredited or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's another area that needs to be looked at, like
Yeah.
making it easier or more accessible for people to register as a biomedical scientist,
Yeah.
making it easy,
Mm.
um, the cost involved, um, like because like you touched on before, I think when we were talking, like people having international qualifications come in here as
Mm.
well, like with the experience that they have, having to the hurdles they have to go through to get registered
Yeah.
here. I guess
Work
it's
as an MLA
necessary.
meanwhile. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's important. It's important. So, yeah, it's a worthwhile career. Um, yeah, that's all I really have to say about the matter. I don't know
I
how you
totally
feel.
agree with you. I totally agree with you because it will help you grow into anything else that you want. I use the
Exactly.
word that scientists can be anything, but not the other way around. So people might disagree with it, but I think it's that way. That leads me to our final question.
Mm.
Where now, as we see in the transformation in healthcare, so in the next few minutes, I want you take your takeaway because what I like to talk about in my channel about the future of work, education, and health. How do you see the future of health and medicine? In few words, I know it's a big question, but with the transformation, since we both worked in automated and manual, how do you see that from in the lab into anything else that you're planning to do, which you can't say yet, but how do you see it?
Um, yeah, I think there's like we've talked about AI, how that may help. We've already seen the introduction of digital pathology in certain disciplines.
Yeah,
Like um, I I know for myself that this is a fast evolving
yeah,
um, area. So I remember, like just for example, when I when I finished my degree,
yeah,
they had just started. People were still using APIs, but now, I mean, we still use APIs in certain sections.
yeah,
But then I heard about the Mordi, and like I was shown this when I was working in the reference lab, and
hmm,
it blew my mind. Like we could identify something so quickly
yeah,
in a few seconds. And what made me laugh was that the guy who showed me it was like, now you need to forget everything that you learned in that textbook because it's no longer relevant. But
mm,
there's parts of it that will be, but um yeah, it just shows you in a matter of moments how things can change. And
yeah,
obviously you've got whole genome sequencing or next generation sequencing that will
yeah,
come into play. I mean, reference labs use it at the moment.
yeah.
Um, so the future looks bright in terms of automation. I think we're heading down that route where probably we won't need as many staff, perhaps.
Hmm.
Their expertise is still required.
Yeah,
And I think, if anything, people should be developing their expertise
I
in the
agree.
area in the area of science and tech, so
Yeah,
they can put their best foot forward when opportunities arise.
yeah. Absolutely. I'm optimistic, just like you, when it came because technology is part of our lives anyway. So we can't undermine saying, "Oh no, technology is going to take our jobs." No, it's actually going to create jobs, but in a different way. So I agree with you. Thank you for pointing that out. That it's your responsibility to make sure that your skills are valid and to continue developing yourself. So yeah, I see healthcare is going to um, evolve and transformed into better. But so especially now with what's going on, economy, etc., all of these things. So yeah, I'm so excited too. So thank you so much for sharing your journey because it takes a lot of courage to reflect back on, but I'm sure it's going to help so many people. So if you have any final words to anybody who's, especially now we're in the summer, we're recording it in the summer, so there's loads of graduates out there. Do you have any final words for them while they go and enjoy their life, so getting confused on what to do?
Yeah, I'm in the world. The world is your oyster. Don't limit yourself. Obviously, just put your best foot forward. Develop those soft skills, like I said, and always keep learning. I mean, the profession is always about well, as they say, continuous learning. So, you know, it's important to keep your skills up to date. And even
Yeah,
when you find a HCPC,
yeah,
they will make sure you're doing that. So
yeah,
that's the key part of the role. So just keep interested in what you're doing,
yeah.
keep that fire burning, and apply for jobs, apply for roles, see what's out there, and
Well
remain.
done.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for, I hope you guys enjoyed it because I'm listening to him. We had a conversation earlier, so it was so inspiring hearing his story. We've been talking about our experiences since he left his where we, where we parted, and now talking about our aspirations after our journey in sciences. So it's quite interesting to share the knowledge, and I'm gonna share your profile and so on, so that you can help out, particularly also into your next journey, because I'm sure a lot of students might have the same aspirations as yourself. So, Francis, thank you so much for your time as well, for spending time with us. And I have a feeling this is not going to be the last one, because we realized when we were preparing for this that there's more we can talk about.
of
so
course, of course.
so I'm looking forward to further episodes with you. And guys, if you have any questions or you want any suggestions, feel free to put them comment below and let us know if there's anything that we can help you. We just wanted to share as many journeys, so that it can benefit all of you. So yeah, thank you so much, Francis. It was a
No,
pleasure
thank you
having
for
you.
having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the second part of this podcast. I hope you benefited from it, and it give you insights on what it's like and is it worth doing biomedical sciences. So if you need any information, again, this channel is all about engagement and you guys giving us any feedback or any questions, or if you have specific questions to Fran, your comment below this video and share it with anyone who can benefit from it. Stay tuned for more discussions about the future of medicine and healthcare, whether in biomedical science or others. So until next time, keep shining, keep inspiring. See you next time.